Good evening. This is the Rudy Giuliani Show, and we're bringing it to you from an airplane in D.C. headed for Phoenix, Arizona. Today was a very special day for me. My son was sworn in this morning as the director of FIFA United States by Secretary Noem, and he will take over with all the responsibilities for this year's and next year's World Soccer Tournament. It's going to take place in approximately a dozen American cities. It's going to be quite a world spectacular, and of course presents the challenges that an event like this presents in the modern age. Challenges that he's very capable of handling with a staff that Secretary Noem has put together that is first class. Remember, I spent a great deal of time in the security business, and it's something that I know from top to bottom, including having done the Qatar Asian Games way back when Qatar almost didn't have a police department. So I know Andrew's capabilities here, and they'll be excellent. Very proud of it. My daughter Caroline is getting married on Saturday in Arizona, and we're headed out now, right now, on the airplane to Sedona, Arizona. But before that, we are going to play for you the interview with Monsignor Alan J. Placa about the Pope. This should be very informative. Thank you very much. Hello, this is Rudy Giuliani, and this is a special podcast edition of America's Mayor Live, because it's a discussion on just one extremely important subject, so that all of us can either refresh our recollections on how a pope is selected or learn about it. And I don't think I'm exaggerating if I say this is one of the most important things that's going to happen, maybe in the decade, maybe in the century, largely because I think the church and religion is at a crossroads. I have with me Monsignor Alan J. Placa. Monsignor Placa is both a lawyer, a priest, and a theologian. He is published. He is a true expert on the church and church history and the papacy, and is really in an excellent position to give us an overview of what is going on, so that you'll be able to use it as we look at the next couple of weeks. Monsignor Placa, it's a great pleasure to have you here.
I'm happy to be here.
We have behind us the Vatican. We're not at the Vatican. We're in Palm Beach, but just for purposes of being perfectly truthful. But we thought that background might enhance everything. Let's begin with why is this is a simple question, but a lot of people may not have a lot of knowledge of this. Why is the election of a pope not only important to Catholics, because Catholics acknowledge the Pope as the leader of their church, the vicar of Christ, the successor of St. Peter? Why is the election of a pope so critical to the whole world? And why is the whole world paying attention to it?
I think it's because the Pope, as the leader of the largest Christian church, has a position that, in a worldwide level, is a leadership position. And also, I have a friend who she's a Presbyterian deacon, and she said to me, I've heard him described as intelligent and this and that. She said, the word they don't use is holy. And Pope Francis was a holy man. And I hope the next Pope is a holy man too.
Well, Alan, because I talked to Alan a great deal, and I have pros and cons about the Pope. I can't have cons about the Pope being the leader of the church, of course. He is the leader of the church, and on faith and morals, if he speaks officially, then I'm bound. But that's pretty narrow.
Yeah,
that's a lot of people think when the Pope says, "Oh, you shouldn't use as much gasoline," all of a sudden, if you use too much gasoline, you committed a mortal sin. The Pope strictures happen when, see if I have it right, Alan, you can give me an X if I don't, when he speaks on matters of faith and morals ex cathedra.
That's right.
And explain what that means.
So from his chair is what it means, literally.
Right.
His chair being the throne of St. Peter. So when he speaks ex cathedra from the chair, he's speaking as officially as he can speak.
Yeah, it's not like when President Trump is on Air Force One and he says something nobody understands it, and then when he gets in the White House, then he says it officially.
That's right.
But it's even more strict than that. It's even it's as if it would only be a president utilizing a special power and putting it in writing.
Exactly right. Yeah.
So I don't think there's any question, and I hope you're not offended or anyone else, that the Pope is controversial, more so than most popes.
You're speaking about Pope Francis.
I'm talking about Pope Francis in comparison to, I mean, every pope had certain contradictions, and Benedict, Pope John Paul II. I'm thinking of the more famous ones. John the 23rd, right. Pope Pius XII. No. They all had issues, but I never remember it as divided. Not at the point of splitting, but divided, intellectually divided, and an openness to talk about it.
Yeah.
So I see a cardinal, like, was he a cardinal or an archbishop? Strickland.
Strickland?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cardinal or archbishop?
He's an archbishop.
So I see Strickland probably went overboard, but there were a lot of Stricklands that didn't get punished that are saying almost the same thing.
That's right.
So what's going on? Can you let us, who just vaguely sort of follow this part of the church, get an understanding of what's going on? And then how does it affect this very monumental decision they're going to make?
Well, what's going on since Francis's time is that the church had entered the modern world feet first. A very powerful image in my mind that Pope Francis, who was the first non-Italian in many, many centuries. And although you probably know this, he was really raised by his grandmother. He's
like Italian like you are.
Yeah.
Even more.
Sure. He was raised by his grandmother, who was Italian, so that he learned to speak Italian as a child. When he was elected, I think this is terrific, by the way. When he was elected, they brought him out onto the balcony and they expect, some monumental thing that he's going to say. And what did he say when he got to the balcony? Buonasera. Good evening.
So his father was born in Italy for sure.
That's right.
Came to Argentina, met his mother. His mother might not have been born in Argentina. I don't know. At most, she would have been first generation, but also of an Italian family.
Also Italian family.
And they grew up like, think of Italian Americans.
Right.
Right.
Exactly right.
They were Italian Argentinians.
Uh-huh.
And you and I, our grandparents were all born in Italy. So he's actually more connected to Italy than we are.
Sure. Absolutely.
So that having happened, when he became Pope, a number of things happened that shocked people. And I guess what would they be? You probably could summarize them better than I can. I'll throw out and in no particular order. He seemed to have a much more tolerant attitude on gay union, so that it could be not marriage, but blessed.
Exactly.
He seemed to have a much stronger role for the women in the church. There was a point at which it was thought there might be women deacon,
right?
But he stopped short of that.
He did.
Just about right short of that, right? And
there was too much opposition.
Right. There was not much discussion of a married priesthood, I would say. I thought there would have been more.
Yeah.
Particularly since a lot of people don't know, and you do, of course, that there are Roman Catholic priests who are married.
That's correct.
And I'm going to ask you to explain that, because that just threw them off for a loop.
Yeah. Well,
totally legitimate.
Absolutely.
As legitimate as anybody, as a priest.
Yeah. There's the church, the Roman Catholic Church has many divisions, many different presences in the world.
Mhm.
It isn't just the one kind of Italian presence that people think
The
of.
Latin,
Yeah,
the
Yeah.
Latin rite, but it's so much the biggest. So
It is.
it dominates,
it
right?
does. But there are other rites in the Catholic Church. And the other rites speak other languages. They
Right,
don't have a Latin base.
right.
And they also have an openness to other cultures than the Eurocentric culture that has pretty much dominated our view of the Catholic Church.
Right.
What's interesting to me, anyway, is that this Eurocentricity is ending. The Catholic Church is more prevalent in Africa than it is in Europe, so that it's growing in Africa, and the people who belong to the church in Africa are people who have as strong a faith and a strong connection to the history of the church as we do, but it's a different cultural medium. They live in a different cultural.
So these are churches like. Well, I mean, it goes back to what, the 12th century.
Sure.
In Nicaea, was it Nicaea?
Nicaea.
When the Pope and the Patriarch of Constantinople, who lived in a relationship where they were both considered as extraordinarily significant bishops, with a little bit more deference given to the Bishop of Rome.
Always, yeah.
And at some.
Excuse me, the reason for that is that was Peter's See. That was St. Peter's See. So
Yeah. I mean, to me, I'm a Catholic, so of course I'm prejudiced, and I've been listening to a lot of argument back and forth on this historical argument, including the biblical argument. And to me, of course, there's no doubt that what Jesus said. He picked one guy. He didn't say we're going to have a council of three,
right.
like the Roman Empire. He had that in his head. The empire he was part of had a triumvirate at one point.
Absolutely.
The Jewish Sanhedrin had a head priest, but he was like a chairman.
Yeah.
He was the chairman of the board.
Yeah.
So he could have gone with, I'm going to pick Peter, John, and James.
Right.
And you guys are going to be the council in charge, which is the way a lot of Protestant churches work.
Yeah.
And then the rest of you will be part of the Episcopal Council. And he said, Peter, Peter, you're the rock.
You're the rock.
And upon this rock,
Right.
this one, 1-1, I'm going to build my church.
Exactly right.
Now, I don't know if you're going to do a original intent interpretation of the Bible, which is what many Protestants do. I don't know how you escape that one.
Yeah.
So in any event, so it emerged then by the time you get to the 10th, 11th century, you've got a whole bunch of these patriarchs. They're like really important bishops or patriarchs. The Pope is not just the first among them. He's a little bit more than the first among them. He's the one who, if you got to call balls and strikes, he gets to call the balls and strikes.
Does.
And then Constantinople had trouble with that. They fought over it, and they separated.
They separated.
However, some of those Eastern churches stayed with the Pope. Like there's a Greek Roman Catholic Church.
Greek Catholic.
There's a
Church.
Ukrainian
Right.
big Roman Catholic Church. There's a Bulgarian Catholic Church.
Right.
The Coptic Church.
That's the Egyptian church.
Now, as part of those with Rome,
Sure.
yeah. How about the Armenians?
We have Armenians in
Yeah.
the Roman Catholic Church.
So for almost every so-called Orthodox church, you've got a smaller version that's allied to Rome, keeps a lot of its own traditions, says Mass in their native language, with their native liturgy, which they've changed much less than we have, probably.
Mm-hmm.
And surprise, they're married. If they get married before they're priests.
That's right.
So explain that.
Well, and that's you've said it correctly. Priests cannot marry, but married men can be ordained priests. That's the tradition in the Eastern Church.
So if I'm married already, I can become an Eastern priest,
Right.
Greek Catholic priest.
Right.
I cannot become a bishop.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
There are no married bishops.
So that's why I've always found the ban on celibacy to be the loosest.
The ban on celibacy?
Oh no, the requirement of celibacy.
Yeah, right.
The requirement of celibacy of the ones that they debate. Not that I'm saying I'm in favor of it or against it, but it seems to me it has the least doctrinal, historical support.
Yes, it does.
So that if it were deemed better, it wouldn't be a tremendous leap to change that.
That's correct.
But that's Pope Francis did not seem to fool around with that very much.
No.
With women, he did. But what was the one that you would say is the most, the one that seems to annoy traditional Catholics, really upset them the most?
Oh, I think it is the issue of marriage.
Marriage.
Yeah. Whether or not clergy can be married.
So they want the clergy, to remain
So the traditionalists want
tradition, like 1,000 years of tradition, which is a long time, right? And like the monks, to remain unmarried.
well, and I gotta just say this.
Right.
In the Catholic Church, 1,000 years is not a long time. That's like last Tuesday.
Now, okay, I understand all those, and I'm going to put them aside. Here's the one I don't get, and here's the one that I think is the most volatile and maybe most dangerous. If the statistics are correct, and they're in debate, but I think the balance is that they are correct. The Catholic Church all churches had fallen right after the pandemic a lot. But the last 2 years, churches are coming back.
Yes, they are.
And the more traditional the church, the more it's coming back. So like, even if Jews are coming back, they're not coming back to make-believe Jews. They're coming back to Orthodox Jews. And same thing with Protestants. And the problem for Protestants is they can't find solid institutional churches anymore. So they become Catholics.
And what's interesting to me is that the younger the person, the more inclined they are to be traditionalists.
Yeah, I mean, this is not from my head. I think I've put out on various shows statistics from different places and different states, southern states, very big in the Northeast, gigantic in the South. It's both returning Catholics and it's a large number of others, mostly Protestants, mostly Christians already, seeking structure. They want structure. They want someone to tell them what's right and wrong.
Exactly right.
They want somebody to say right, wrong. And here's another one. They seem to love the Latin Mass, maybe because that takes them back to something more solid, purer. I mean, it developed over how many years, the Latin Mass, the sung Mass in particular?
Oh, 700, 800 years.
So just as a complete snob,
Mm-hmm.
How is strumming a guitar and singing about boopity-doop-boop God going to bring you closer to God than Mozart, Bach, Palestrina? I mean, Beethoven?
Yeah. So
are you kidding me?
All of the greatest composers lived and worked in the time when everything was in Latin in the Catholic Church. So the music they composed,
the credo.
Yeah, it was to the words, the Latin words of the liturgy.
You remember way back, Alan, when I used to have an opera club in the U.S. Attorney's Office, myself and Ken Feinberg.
Yeah, and
we used to do opera, and he would do one week, I do another week, and he would basically do classical music, I do opera. So one week, this is mostly what, 3/4 Jewish, the group. I decided I was going to do the Mass. I was going to show them. We're going to show them the beginnings of opera. The Roman Catholic Mass is the beginning of opera. So I described the structure of the Mass, and I played for them, a Kyrie, let's say, from Mozart, and a Gloria, and a Gloria from Beethoven, and I played part of Verdi's Requiem and the great Credo. The great Credo of Berlioz, and compared it to a more traditional one. And then I played a little Gregorian chant.
Yeah, yeah.
They were entranced. About 4 or 5 of them, I had to go get the masses to listen to. So
Yeah.
I had these Jewish guys that go to the temple and they listen to the mass. I hope they weren't thrown out of the temple. But it's infused with 700-800 years of beauty to find some way to reach you, to bring you to God. It's irresistible.
Yeah, it
if you let yourself into it, and you're beyond a person who you're beyond. You don't have attention deficit disorder completely.
Right.
You're beyond it, but you can let yourself into 3 minutes of music. You're going to fall in love with it.
See, it's so entwined with Western civilization, and so there was a fear that as the Eurocentricity of Western civilization began to dissolve, that the church would suffer from that. Absolutely the opposite happened, because the church has now found itself rooted in Africa, and so the development of the church has not led away from it, but rather led into it more deeply.
Well, so now we have a couple of these cardinals, and I think it hard to say how strongly opposed to the Latin Mass Francis was. You would say very, because some of the cardinals have been really outspoken,
Yeah.
like at both ways.
Yeah.
Some of them are like, it's going to take us back to ancient ridiculous times.
Yeah.
Others are saying it's destroying our church because it's ripping its history and structure and traditionalism. Where was Francis in that?
Well, yeah, see, Francis, as you know, for example, in the United States, he forbade the use of the Latin Mass in the United States.
You know, I only caught up with that very late. I was shocked.
Yeah.
I was shocked when someone came to me. Like, I used to enjoy going to Latin Masses, and then I fell out of doing it when I was traveling a lot, because I used to go to Mount Carmel Church in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And then someone told me it's banned. I said, it can't be. I thought they were wrong.
No. Oh, no, they were right. Yeah.
Why would somebody ban the Roman Mass?
The Latin Mass.
Yeah,
Roman Mass.
Roman Latin Mass, right.
His feeling, by the way, expressed as he expressed it, was that clinging to the Latin Mass left people not with a faith in the church founded by Christ, but with a faith in a cultural development, a cultural reality that was invented by human beings. That was his point of view.
Who? Him?
Francis.
Right? But I mean, wasn't Latin spoken at the time of Jesus? The people who killed him spoke Latin.
Yeah, but the Mass was never celebrated in Latin in those days.
Well, when the Mass was first celebrated, it probably was celebrated in Aramaic, I imagine.
No, I think it was Greek.
In Greek.
Yeah, Greek
But
was-
so you think the Jews did not first celebrate the Mass? You think the Greeks incorporated it?
And I think even the Jews celebrated the Mass in Greek.
In Greek, I see. Well, the Greeks keep it as the language of so the Greeks are even, I don't think the Greeks have gone to a non-Greek Mass yet, have they?
No, they haven't.
Are there any breakaway Greek churches that have?
No.
I don't know of any.
No.
I mean, Archbishop Macarius was a very, very close friend. And when I used to ask him that, he looked like I was crazy. Because I was kind of okay with the Mass of course, you said it both ways.
Yes.
As a priest. I was okay with the Mass in English. I thought it was good for most people. But I also thought it was good to have the Mass in Latin, like maybe high Masses in Latin. And it gives people different ways of accessing God.
I think sometimes we mix up the Mass with the cultural structure around the Mass. So a sung Latin Mass, that connects us to a moment in Western civilization that is, many people feel is a beautiful moment, and they want to be connected to that moment.
Yeah, it almost now. I'm going to take another step.
Mhm.
I might get in trouble for it. Since I spend most of my time linking almost everything that's happening that's destructive to Marxism. Why isn't this really an application of Marxism through liberation theology to the Pope? Because if you can break down structure, culture, the Cultural Revolution in China is all about this. The destroying of Russian art, Chinese art,
Mhm.
Chinese dance. Part of the biggest cultural structures in our Western world, which is so anti-communist, is religious based.
Mhm.
The paintings of Michelangelo, the music in the Lutheran tradition of Bach, the music of Palestrina, which goes back, to early Roman. You can break that.
Mhm.
Man, we're swimming without an anchor, aren't we?
That's right.
And you can grab us up as communists
Mhm.
in a minute.
Yeah.
What's wrong with him? Doesn't he remember what Our Lady of Fatima said about the danger of communism? I mean, the Pope.
So about Pope Francis?
Yeah, I mean, sometime I wanted to take him to Fatima.
He's a very interesting man.
I know he is.
Yeah. He appeared on that balcony, I told you, and said, Buonasera, instead of some,
Yeah, like from
long,
Barbara Figueroa.
complicated
Buonasera,
Yeah.
buonasera.
And he's a very, very human man. As I told you, my neighbor, my Presbyterian deaconess neighbor, said they call him everything that you can think of, all positive things, but they don't mention that he's holy. And shouldn't that be the main thing you think of when you think of a pope?
Yes.
He's a holy man.
Yes.
Mm.
It should be if he hadn't introduced the other things. If he's holy, but he's going to break us of our tradition, that after all, maybe us.
But I think he wanted to do that. I think he wanted to say that holiness doesn't live in tradition, that holiness lives in the heart of holy people. And
I guess that's right.
yeah,
I guess that's right, but it doesn't get there like falling from a tree. So I remember being taught somewhere in our Catholic education somewhere that all of the forms of art and music, literature should be used to bring you to God, because people will be brought there different ways.
yeah.
Some people love music, and you can listen to Mozart's you can listen to Mozart's Requiem, and it'll bring you to God. Or some people can look at the magnificent paintings in the Sistine Chapel,
Mhm.
or the others, or modern religious art, and be brought to God. There are some traditions in which dance can do that. Colors, the vestments,
Yeah.
the ceremony. It's all intended to appeal to diverse human beings who are affected in many different ways, any one of which can access what I believe is inside them, the desire to have an explanation of what this world is all about. It's like teaching someone. You got to find, some people are interested in reading. Some people are interested in examining. Some people are interested in touching. Some people are interested in playing a musician. You get them doing what they're interested in, and then they become interested in everything else.
Mhm.
So I don't understand this abstract holiness. Holiness comes from somewhere. To get in you, you don't just get born holy.
Well, but you gotta distinguish between holiness and churchiness. They're not the same thing.
Okay.
They're not the same thing. Holiness is an openness to God. There are holy Chinese people. There are holy Jewish people. Holiness is an inclination of the heart to God. And this is what Francis was working on. He was trying to see to it that we find the holiness of God in the everyday world, that we don't feel we have to go back to some ancient time or some ancient civilization or some ancient language. Rather, the holiness that he proclaimed was the holiness that is within human beings and is put there by God.
Well, now there's going to be one of three types of popes selected, so I can oversimplify.
Okay.
One, there'll be a very progressive pope that wants to consider and take a look at not just sort of pushing out tradition, but married priesthood, gay marriage, a couple of the others that I can't remember.
I don't know anyone who's being seriously considered for Pope who has any of those most extreme views.
Okay.
I think there are some people being considered as Pope who would have a kinder view of married priesthood. I don't know any of them who is committed to married priesthood. I don't see that at all.
There's none that would consider, and that in a way, I don't know why that seems easier to me. But in any event, there's a chart here. And what the chart shows is this is a Pope Francis conclave, unlike any other Pope. So these are the last four conclaves. Okay. And you'll see first thing you'll see on the chart, if you look over here, is under Paul the Sixth, we only had 77 voting cardinals.
Wow.
Boy. Paul the Second, 115.
Right.
Benedict kept it the same.
Mm-hmm.
He increased it by 20.
Mm-hmm.
135. Now look at the little black boxes. These are Pope Francis cardinals. 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 All Pope Francis cardinals. Asia, all but three.
Right.
Including, don't get me started on this one. Appointed with the approval of the Red Chinese.
Right.
I put little X's in those boxes. I'm sorry. Africa, very impressed with Africa. US and Canada, who knows? But look, 2/3 Pope Francis.
Mm-hmm.
Way more than 2/3 in Latin America, right?
Mm-hmm.
I assume these are a lot of his liberation theology pals. And over here in Europe, well, we don't know. Europe is very complicated. But he's appointed most of them. Does that mean they'll follow him, his thinking, more likely than not with those numbers?
I think it's possible.
Yeah.
I got to tell you what he was doing was moving away from the traditional appointment of cardinals was the archbishops of the largest cities. He passed over the archbishops of many of the larger cities and appointed much simpler, ordinary clergy and made them cardinals. So we now have, when this conclave, and you know what conclave means, don't you?
Behind the key or
Conclaves with a key.
the key.
They
Locked up. It means locked up.
Yeah. When this,
I could say that to the guys I arrested, right? Conclave.
When these guys get locked up to make their considerations, they're a very interesting group of people. They're not,
Of course.
the heads of all the largest churches in the world. He appointed simple,
That's fascinating.
ordinary people.
Like, see if am I right? I heard this somewhere in the back of my ear. There is no cardinal in Los Angeles.
That's right.
Archbishop.
That's right.
The cardinal is somewhere else in a small town.
Exactly right.
Someplace else also doesn't have a cardinal that's big. I don't know.
Many places.
Usually you'd have New York, big one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chicago, usually number 2. Los Angeles, number 3. Miami getting real big because of the growing Hispanic population. But then other places were marginal, like St. Louis might or might not have a cardinal. Milwaukee, right? Not
Yeah.
Milwaukee, really.
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee, right?
Cardinal Dolan.
Well, Cardinal was a bishop in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Archbishop or bishop. He wasn't
Yeah.
a cardinal. When he came to New York, he was a
And
bishop.
cardinal. Yeah.
Usually when they come to New York, they're archbishops or bishops.
Mhm.
And wait about 9 months. Then they become cardinals.
That's right.
So what you're saying to me is this is filled with simpler priests that are good side, closer to the people.
street priests.
Yeah, like he wanted.
He uses that phrase, street priests.
Gotcha. Whereas a lot of the cardinals have become princes of the church, as
Exactly
they are
right.
described.
Yeah.
So that will have a big bearing on who they choose. Here's the other thing I wanted people to see, and I think if you see it, you get it. There are almost as many cardinals that can't vote as vote, which means cardinals live a good long time, Alan.
Yes, they do.
Can I just become like an honorary cardinal? So the ones in red here, if you look, these are the ones that can vote, okay? That's 135 of them under the age of 80. Unless they slip one in at the end, like in the movie Conclave, who they're not sure is a boy or a girl. But in any event, look at the number that are not eligible. I mean, that's almost the same.
They're too old.
Now, what do these guys do?
What do they do?
Yeah. So now I'm sure they have this week, and many of them stayed in Rome, I'm sure, right, at the St. Martha residence. So they're absolutely free to talk about this. In fact, this would be a good time to try to get it all worked out. Can these guys participate with these guys and at least talk to them?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And by the way, that group, which is not eligible to vote, is eligible to be elected.
Yeah, of course. Yes. Like I am and you are.
Well, any Catholic man can be elected pope, right?
I don't know what I would say. I'd say you're out of your mind.
I will be called pious.
Yeah, but just give me a chance to go to confession. Give me a chance to go to confession. I make this point all the time, and I don't know if people believe it after watching the movie or watching it. A lot of these men don't want to be pope.
Oh yeah. Oh, I think that's very true.
I think the one thing that the movie might well distort, and not just this thing about the guy being half male and half female, who eventually doesn't disclose it, gets appointed, accepts it, and then he discloses to the Camerlengo that he's half boy and half girl. So you get a half boy, half girl pope. Well, in any event, that's what Hollywood wants for us. And it makes the cardinals conniving and double-crossing, some really nice ones, but some real rats. I tend to think that even the rats sublimated because they would be ostracized if they acted like rats.
Sure.
I mean, I've read many, many times that if you push too hard for it, you're out, no matter who you are.
Absolutely.
So that even if you are a guy...
Whoever enters the conclave, a pope, leaves a cardinal.
Yeah. And that makes sense because the vast majority of votes are not going to be ambitious like that. No. So if you're really clever, you hide it. So let's say you are really ambitious, you hide it. You're not like these jerks that are going out and doing oppo research on the other popes.
Yeah, right.
But so those older cardinals can have an influence on the younger ones by advising them. Well, that's very, very, so let's take a look before we finish, because we're going to have you again before this. There's plenty of time to go here. This is a smaller list this is a smaller group of 3 prospective candidates. This is CBS's choice.
Right.
So how would you, Pietro Parolin, an Italian, kind of young as popes go, right? Tagle, Luis Antonio Tagle from the Philippines, really young, and Pier Battista Pizzaballa.
Right.
These are young guys.
Very young.
So how do they here's the simplistic version. You tell us the real version. So Tagle is seen as a real progressive. Big progressive.
Right.
Wants to do away with the Latin Mass, and then wants to move a little further on all these progressive issues. I don't know how far, but he's seen that way. Parolin is seen as, we're not sure. He is Secretary of State, which would mean he got to be somewhat moderate.
Right.
But he also was extremely supportive of the deal with China, which has really disturbed many of us. And by the way, Tagle is a big supporter of that. which is very, very strange because Philippines is a target of China.
Yeah.
And the Philippine government is very anti-China,
Right.
part of a new alliance with us and Japan, because they're worried about China's trying to take Taiwan because they feel they're next. Now, he's a big supporter.
Exactly, yeah.
And Pierre Battista Pizzaballa is the patriarch of Jerusalem who gave himself up as a hostage in exchange for the children.
Right, offered himself, yeah.
Very legitimately, everyone believes, not some kind of a Hollywood
No,
thing.
no.
And is a little bit more, nobody's sure.
Mhm.
Is he progressive? Is he liberal? Or is he right in the middle? Or still developing those ideas? After all, he's still a young man.
Yeah, he's very young for, a papabile, for somebody who might be pope, but also his world, the world he lives in now, is a world where he comes in contact every day with Muslims. He comes in contact every day with people of different culture, and that's I think that's a very important point to understand. He's young and comes in contact with people from totally different cultures.
So you think of those three?
Yeah.
So we'll just go with those three.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have any feeling on?
I'll tell you what I have a feeling about. I think that when they get together, these men who don't know each other, when they get together, you know what they might want to do? They might want to buy time. They might want to select a person who is very neutral, who could be pope for 5 or 6 years, older man, and let somebody else make the decision.
Well, I mean, for example, Pizzaballa, even Tagle would be in the early set. I mean, if this pope, let's say, is 78, 79, lives 4 or 5 years, that guy'd be less than his mid 70s.
Yeah. Which, again, in pope language, that's young.
Of course, that's young. Yeah. Now, if we put this up, we see another leading candidate, Bishop Sarah from Ghana.
Right.
Now, he is one who has had, not political disputes with the Pope, but he's had some disagreements with the Pope.
Sure.
And I don't remember what they were over. Were they over the Latin Mass or
No.
over China? I don't know.
That seems to matter to you a lot. It doesn't matter to anybody. Nobody else cares about the Latin Mass. It's just,
I'm sorry, I
it's
love
a
Latin.
big zero. This disagreement with the Pope is over much more basic realities. He comes from a part of the world where the future is.
Sub-Saharan Africa.
That's right, where the future is.
And Catholicism is growing faster there maybe than any place else.
Any place.
Possibly South, but no, maybe there
No,
more than any place else.
More than any place else.
And if you look at the number of cardinals, the Pope certainly reflected that
That's right.
in the number of cardinals he appointed from Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think? Does he have a chance? Or is he too,
I think
does he frighten them with being too right-wing?
that's what I think. I think when they get together, look, these men who don't know each other are going to get together, and the first thing they're going to have to do is figure out who are these people, and what influence can they have on me? They're going to have, they're going to have dinner together, and 6 or 7 of them are going to go out and have dinner together. 5 or 6 of them are going to have lunch the next day. In those very human encounters, they're going to start raising questions about what they want to see for the future of the church.
Well, this is going to be fascinating, Alan. We have to have you back because there's no one that has, I think, sort of a more balanced view of it than you do. I mean, I know that. And easily your views of this, nothing wrong with it, can be affected by your own prejudices.
Mhm.
Like you said, the Latin Mass. It really is important to me.
Yeah.
I will confess that at times when I'm troubled and nothing else will relax me, I'll take out the St. Joseph Missal, which you can go get in there if you want. Just go get it. It's right. It's It's on that bookshelf or where the television goes. It's a St. Joseph Missal from 1962.
Mhm.
I went and got the old one, not new versions of it, because I wanted to see the old mass that you and I were taught to be altar boys.
Right.
I love that mass. Is it even religious? It's soothing. Well, you want to know which one it is, huh? Alan will recognize this one, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you can see it's not the one I use because it's so nice and clean.
Yeah.
But I mean, here's the Latin mass. Everything is in Latin, including the gospel. And then at times you can just, I don't know what it is, maybe because you were brought up with it, right? But it's also, I hate to see so many years of tradition thrown aside. And it meant a lot to me when we were taught the same mass, same language in Rome, in Prague, in Japan, in America.
Mhm.
Same language, absolutely same. We're saying the same mass. We're not saying a Japanese mass or a German mass, or we're saying the
But we invented that in the Middle Ages.
Roman Catholic mass.
We invented that in the Middle Ages.
Well, maybe it was a good invention.
No, I'm not saying it's good or bad. Just that I don't want you to think that St. Peter did this. He didn't.
Yeah, I guess.
What
yes.
languages would that have been? What language would St. Peter's Mass have been in?
I think St. Peter would have prayed in Aramaic, which was his native tongue.
Well, we're going to have to sign off now. I just want to know, what's the mass of the catechumens?
We owe that's nothing new. That's the old
Mass.
That's the old language. Yeah, Mass of the catechumens. I'll tell you what it's about. The catechumens were people preparing to be baptized.
Right.
Mass of the catechumens was the first part of the Mass, up to and including the proclamation of the gospel.
It was no different than the one that I would do that I would answer kneeling down next to the priest.
Right. And then, when that was proclaimed, they were dismissed. They were not allowed to be present for the rest of the Mass.
So they were on their way to becoming Christians.
That's right.
I mean, how about, Confitio Deo Omnipotenti, Beata Mia Semper Virgine, Beate Michael Arcangelo. Come on. Beato Gianni Battista. I mean, Blessed John the Baptist. Well, okay. I also might have to do something about my being Italian as well.
That's right.
See, I always knew if they got away from these Italian popes, who knows what could happen. Well, we're going to be back along the way because there's a whole week in between in which these conversations take place that even CNN can't get. Thank God, because they'd lie about them.
Yeah.
And let's see, a lot of things could develop. And let me assure you, over the course of this next week coming up, I'm going to show you how this affects you dramatically. I don't care if you're Catholic, a fallen away Catholic, Metza Catholic, a Protestant, Jewish or not religious, or even Muslim. There is no single religious figure in the world with the power this next pope will have. There are a lot of great ones. So he has a great, great effect on how we think, what we do, how we solve things, and where our world goes. So thank you very much, Alan. And God, pray for us. And also, God bless America. It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply our God-given
Have you ever wondered what happened to the legendary Chuck Norris? Well, I recently saw a video he made and I was shocked. That guy's amazing and he's staying active well into his 80s. What's even more shocking is he's stronger, can work out longer, and even has plenty of energy left over for his grandkids. He did this by just making one change. He says he still feels like he's in his 50s. His wife even started doing this one thing too, and she's never felt better. She says she feels 10 years younger, her body looks leaner, and she has energy all day. Chuck made a very special video that explains everything. Make sure you watch it by going to chuckdefense.com/Lindell. It will change the way you think about your health. Once again, that's chuckdefense.com/Lindell. You won't believe how simple it is. Whether it's being a weekend warrior or spending time with your family, feeling your best is the key to doing the things you love. That's why I'm excited to tell you about Nirvanta. It's a natural solution designed to help you stay active and live well naturally. Nirvanta is a topical blend of all natural essential oils like frankincense, myrrh, and a proprietary gold standard plant stock extract. It's perfect for your hands, feet, knees, back, or anywhere else that needs a little extra care. Use Nirvanta proactively as part of your daily maintenance routine, and you're guaranteed you're going to feel the difference. Simply massage Nirvanta in for at least 60 seconds, 2 to 3 times a day to get the best results. And if you're not completely satisfied, you get your money back. No questions asked. There's simply no risk and no reason not to try Nirvanta today. Right now, you get 15% off with code Lindell exclusively at nirvantahealth.com. So stop reaching out for that medicine cabinet. Get Nirvanta instead and experience the difference. Go to nirvantahealth.com. Use code Lindell to get 15% off today. Nirvanta Health. Live well naturally. If you want to feel and look your best, you need to check out Pure Health Research. They have 45 premium health supplements that are designed to help you with everyday health goals. Whether it's boosting your energy or trimming belly fat, supporting healthy blood sugar, pumping your testosterone up, or even reducing swelling in your legs, Pure Health Research Supplement Store has you covered. Each formula is crafted with natural, non-GMO ingredients, backed by clinical research and manufactured right here in the USA. And here's the best part. Pure Health Research is offering you an exclusive 35% discount. Just go to purehealthresearch.com and use promo code Lindell at checkout. With their 365-day money-back guarantee, there's nothing to lose. So head over to purehealthresearch.com now, explore their 45 amazing supplements, and save 35% before this deal ends with promo code Lindell. Let me ask you, do you ever think about what's in energy drinks? Well, it's time we did. Introducing Rev 7, a premium energy drink that's actually good for you. And it tastes great and gives you energy all day. Plus, it has no sugar or caffeine, so you won't experience those jitters and crashes that we've all been through with the other energy drinks. And what makes Rev 7 so special is that it's powered with Cognizant, a premium nootropic that helps fuel your mind, and Go BHB, which is a primary ketone in your body that provides the most efficient and cleanest fuel ever. It's a game changer when it comes to consuming less sugar and caffeine and still getting the energy we need. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20%. And I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7. For a limited time, try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free.